18 attorneys general pen a letter to the new U.S. Attorney General begging for him to ban 80% lowers. Sit by and watch this episode of Guns and Gadgets if you want to know more and to see if your state AG is on this list. Hey everybody, welcome back to Guns and Gadgets, your premier source for Second Amendment news. If you're into Second Amendment news, no matter where it happens, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, please subscribe to Guns and Gadgets. This is where you will get a plethora of that education, knowledge, and information. And today's no different. So I know we're all frustrated and focused on what will be coming down the pike from the White House related to some executive orders that they're anticipating. I think I know what ones. There's going to be two of them, I think, but I want to be sure before I say it, so stay tuned. But I want you to know that there's some other stuff still going on behind the scenes while the smokescreen of the two shootings in 6 days has caused. So let's look at this letter that 18 attorneys general, proper English would help, they sent a letter to Merrick Garland, the newly ordained Attorney General, who is a very anti-gun person. Otherwise, Biden probably wouldn't have picked him. But, you know what, let me put the picture on screen. It's really 2.5 pages. I'll read it real quick, and then we'll talk about it. Now, the author of this letter is Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania, the same one that thought, that paraded around a gun victory with the Eagle Arms gun shows. And that turned to be a fiasco. And the letter says, here's the letter written 2 days ago. Dear Attorney General Garland, as you transition to your new role as United States Attorney General, we ask for your help in closing a regulatory loophole that allows criminals, domestic abusers, and other individuals who legally cannot possess firearms to evade common sense gun laws. Specifically, we ask you to direct the Department, and he's talking about the Department of Justice, to expedite new rulemaking from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, recognizing that the Federal Gun Control Act requires unfinished frames and receivers to be treated the same as fully finished firearms and receivers so that we can put an end to the alarming rise of ghost guns in our communities. As your partners in law enforcement, we are proud to work with you to reduce criminals' access to guns through enforcement actions, data sharing, and other vital collaborations. Our agency's joint successes have taken thousands of illegal guns off the streets, shuttered criminal organizations, and made our communities safer. We are immensely grateful for this important and ongoing collaboration. ATF's interpretation of the Federal Gun Control Act allows a dangerous loophole that gives criminals ready access to even the most dangerous types of firearms. The 80% receiver loophole. Some of us have expressed our views through legal action, and others had the opportunity to meet with the ATF and shared our view that addressing this loophole is an urgent public safety priority. A so-called 80% receiver refers to a frame or receiver that can easily become capable of receiving necessary components to assemble into an operable firearm. In fact, they are sold with the express intention that the average person can build a gun from them with common tools and no advanced skill. They are readily available at gun shops, gun shows, and even online for a home delivery with no serial number, no background check, and often in kits with all of the other parts needed to build a complete gun. Without serial numbers, these firearms are untraceable ghost guns, and without background checks, we cannot prevent them from being sold directly to criminals. Simply put, this loophole allows unserialized ghost guns to be bought and sold without oversight. This is not a theoretical problem. More and more, criminals are taking advantage of this loophole to obtain guns that are later used in crimes. For example, the Philadelphia Police Department is seeing ghost gun recoveries skyrocket from 13 in 2018 to 250 in 2020. Those of us working these cases day in and day out recognize that this loophole must be closed as quickly as possible. ATF's interpretation that 80% lowers not be treated as firearms is inconsistent with Congress's intent when it passed the Gun Control Act and with public safety priorities. Violent felons, domestic abusers, juveniles, and people who have been involuntarily committed due to severe mental illness who would be permitted from purchasing a fully functioning, traceable firearm under federal law cannot be allowed to buy a product that lets them assemble an untraceable ghost gun in an afternoon. We hope that under the Biden administration's leadership, ATF will reconsider its interpretation and ensure that existing federal law is properly enforced. Some of our states have already taken steps to close this dangerous loophole. For example, Pennsylvania's Uniform Firearms Act has similar language to federal law in how it defines a firearm. In 2019, Attorney General Shapiro issued a common sense, binding legal opinion that 80% lowers must be treated the same as fully functioning firearms under Pennsylvania's law. He also entered into an agreement with the largest gun show promoter in the Commonwealth to stop selling 80% receivers at all of their gun shows as long as they are not subject to background checks, proving that even ardent supporters of the Second Amendment recognize the dangerous consequences of ATF's current interpretation. The District of Columbia has seen similar spikes in ghost gun recoveries, going from just 3 in 2017 to 306 in 2020. To try to stop this influx, the D.C. Council enacted a law last year amending the definition of firearm and expressly banning the sale of ghost guns to D.C. residents. D.C. Attorney General Karl Racine also filed a lawsuit against Polymer 80, the company that manufactures nearly 90% of all ghost guns recovered there. The lawsuit asserts that their 80% receiver products are firearms under D.C. law and that Polymer 80 therefore unlawfully sold firearms to D.C. residents. That case remains ongoing. In New Jersey, Attorney General Grewal successfully sued a recalcitrant out-of-state ghost gun company to force it to stop advertising and selling its products to New Jersey buyers who cannot lawfully possess them, and secured voluntary compliance with more than a dozen other ghost gun sellers after issuing them cease and desist letters. Rhode Island Attorney General Peter Naranjo championed a 2020 bill that outlawed these ghost guns. That law has already borne results, with the office announcing a plea deal earlier this month for a defiant who was in possession of an unserialized 9mm ghost gun and 18 rounds of ammunition. While states can close this loophole within our own borders, we need federal action to institute a nationwide solution. Even when states try to close this loophole, 80% receivers can still be readily purchased online or trafficked into the states from other jurisdictions. Additionally, many states rely on ATF's interpretation of federal law for their enforcement actions. Congress has previously considered bills that would close this loophole. However, ATF need not and should not wait for Congress to act to close off criminals' illegal access to untraceable firearms. Existing law provides you all the authority you need. You can begin the process of issuing rulemaking today to reverse this erroneous interpretation and close this loophole. Federal action would help ATF, our offices, and our colleagues in federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies across the country to combat the ever-increasing prevalence of ghost guns in our communities. Until then, we are fighting gun trafficking and possession by prohibited purchasers with one arm tied behind our backs. To be clear, such a change would not in any way restrict the rights of lawful gun owners to purchase 80% receivers and assemble firearms on their own. It would simply require that these products have serial numbers and that these purchasers undergo simple background checks just like they do for other firearm purchases. Collaboration between federal, state, and local law enforcement is critical to stopping the flow of illegal guns in our communities and across our state borders. The rise of untraceable ghost guns undermines that effort. By closing this loophole, ATF can take a tremendous step forward towards the goal we all share: violating and deleting people's rights. Keeping Americans safe from violence. Sincerely, and here's the 18 AGs who have just signed a letter saying they should infringe on the Second Amendment. Josh Shapiro, Pennsylvania; William Tong, Connecticut; Kathleen Jennings, Delaware; Karl Racine of D.C., Claire Connors, Hawaii; Kwame Raoul of Illinois; Tom Miller of Iowa; Mara Healy of Massachusetts, the Queen wannabe herself; Dana Nessel of Michigan; Gerbir Grual, New Jersey; Hector Balderas of New Mexico; Letitia James of New York; Josh Stein of North Carolina; Ellen Rosenblum of Oregon; Peter Naranjo of Rhode Island; Thomas Donovan Jr. of Vermont; Mark Herring, Virginia; and Bob Ferguson, Washington State. So there's the letter. Now let's obviously address some of the blatant lies in this letter. First of all, the Constitution of the United States of America Nowhere in it does it say, and if you don't believe me, Mr. and Miss Anti-Gun watching this, please call me out on it. But it does not say anywhere in there that the ATF shall make determinations on their own to violate law or this document. ATF does not make law. ATF does not like me. They don't like when I say that. How do I know? We'll get into that some other time. But ATF doesn't, they do it, they're unchecked, but they don't get to do that stuff legally. There's supposed to be legislation. That's the whole reason we have legislators. They create the laws. ATF is part of the enforcement branch. They enforce the law. You can't enforce something and make it on your own. That makes you Judge Dredd, judge, jury, and executioner. If you notice, they're also making a wide, huge, giant paintbrush approach at this, insinuating that everybody who buys it is a criminal. That if anybody wants a better receiver for their pistol or even their rifle, then comes from the factory, that they can't do that, they can't purchase that without becoming a criminal, I guess. I'm sorry. It's a small percentage of people who do that stuff illegally, who buy these and create and commit crimes. So since when do we affect everybody else for the action of a few? If we did that, any other scenario, it would be wrong. But because it's for guns and it's an agenda issue, that's okay. Also, you'll note that Shapiro, the author of this letter, put out his claim to fame about the issue in Pennsylvania. And he made an agreement with Eagle Arms Productions, even though they told me in a letter that they didn't make an agreement. In fact, Eamon Brown, the legislator who is tied up into this whole thing as well, he said in his interview with John Crump that Eagle Arms was talking with people behind the scenes about making this decision. So maybe they're not being as truthful. But they decided to ban 80% lowers. People reacted. Gun owners put pressure on them, and they went back to following the law. And Shapiro is touting that, but it's not even the case anymore. It's pretty cool. It looks like egg on his face. But the key thing is control. They want to control how you get to exercise your rights. They want oversight on what you can and can't do. They want you to beg for permission from the government to be a gun owner. And to that, I say, A, shall not be infringed. B, follow the Constitution. You took an oath to do that. C, term limits. And D, I hope everybody's taking notes on all these names that I've been putting out on a daily basis when it comes to legislators, because they need to be removed. And if you're a pro-gun person who would maybe want to do something federally, state, or local level, consider running for office, because we need more like you. Now, it's important for me to note that California's AG, who's now in the Biden administration, he didn't sign this letter. And I don't know if it's because maybe the assistant AG out there didn't get asked. Maybe he's not cool enough, or she's not cool enough yet to be considered super anti-gun. Or if they left California off because California is suing the ATF for this exact thing. They are suing the ATF to enforce 80% lowers and to ban them and stuff like that. So there's a lot of pressure being put on not only Biden with his 2 executive orders, but now again the Department of Justice to try to force the ATF to change rules so that they can meet the agenda of the people in power. Guys and gals, they fear the gun owners. They're not worried about the criminals so much as they make it sound, because if they were, they'd actually enforce the law and go after the criminals because the laws are already there. But far too often, it's a slap on the wrist, do a little bit of this and that and you'll be forgiven, continued without a finding. If they were serious about crime, they'd get serious on crime. What they do want to do, what they're serious about, is removing the ability for the average American to defend themselves or to fight off tyranny. That's the one thing they fear the most as an armed populace, because the one thing that government wants the most is control and a death grip on the American people. Don't believe me? Look at the last year. There's a lot of Kool-Aid that's been spread around this country. So I just want everybody to know that this letter went out. It was received by the new Attorney General of the United States, Merrick Garland, and he's very anti-gun, and he now is the head of the ATF, and he has the ability to make this happen because the ATF operates unconstitutionally. Again, thank you all for your time. I hope that you get a little bit something out of this. If you weren't aware of this, I ask you to do me two things. Thumbs up the video so more people see it, because more people are just like the rest of us and weren't aware of this. And please be proactive and share this, because YouTube will not put my videos in front of people like they used to back in the day, because it's the truth. And your sharing it absolutely helps destroy the anti-gun algorithm here in the Google sphere. So I thank you for that. I hope that you consider joining this growing freedom family. And until we see each other again, be safe, stay vigilant, carry a weapon. Take care, everybody.